Hey everybody, welcome back to the Awesome Walter YouTube channel. I am Walter Benasiak. If you're watching this, I hope you just went over to Channel Awesome's YouTube channel to check out the top 5 best Power Rangers in Space episodes. It's our 100th episode of Top 5. We went all out with the extravaganza. We closed off the storyline stuff with Dino Rob and everything, so I hope you guys enjoy that finale to that little story that we had going for a long time, while also counting down one of the best Power Rangers seasons ever, I think we all can agree on, in Power Rangers in Space. We decided to not do a Channel Awesome top 5 of the worst episodes because we're going to move on to some other stuff in the following weeks. So I decided to just make that a personal channel video, which is what I'm doing right now. These are the top 5 worst episodes of Power Rangers in Space. There are some that aren't that great. I think every Power Rangers season or series has some episodes that don't work that well. And we're going to count down the top 5 that I don't like personally as much as the rest of them right now, starting with number 5. Number 5, A Ranger Among Thieves. So this is kind of a fish out of water story for Andros. He goes to Earth sort of by himself while the other Rangers are in high school taking a test, and I think this is one of the only times we actually see them in school in this whole season. So Andros is kind of on his own in this episode. He gets mixed up with this kind of gang of bad guys, these little thieves that are stealing cars and things like that. The main one is called Chuck, because of course his name is Chuck, and the other ones are David and Susie. So he's just sort of going along with these guys, sort of oblivious to what's going on. He just thinks that they're, altruistic, good people. And later he finds out that they are thieves, and they stole the van from the surf spot, and some other cars and other things here and there. So, Andros, why I don't like this episode is just like Andros. I mean, he is naive, and he is kind of the fish out of water on Earth and stuff, but he's not this naive, I don't think, throughout the rest of the season. It's kind of weird how they pull him into this situation where he's not as smart as he usually is, and I don't really like that. But this episode isn't really that bad. I had to pick something for number 5, and this one was just one of the ones I had rated lower, and when rewatching some of them, I just thought this one didn't hold up as well as most of the other episodes. So this one made it in. Some of the other things I like about the episode, Professor Phenomenus, Bulk, and Skull are pretty funny as usual in here. To the untrained eye. I love that line that he always says. So that trio worked really well in this season. I thought it made Bulk and Skull really well rounded as a trio. Even I don't know if they're funnier as a trio than as they were as a duo in the previous seasons, but I just really like them together here in this season. This was earlier in the season, I think, so the tone of this season was still being found. The actress playing Astronemo is still trying to get that character down, and she's like super goofy in this episode and in the first few episodes of this season. So I also love the Go Power Rangers song in this. It's just like, go Power Rangers, fly Power Rangers, win Power Rangers. It's a good song. As you can tell, my amazing vocal talent right there. So episode's not that bad, but there are stuff in it that I was not a big fan of, most especially Andros, because kind of being dumb and underwriting his character a little bit. So this fit in at number 5. Now let's move on to the next one. Number 4, Andros and the Stowaway. This is another Andros-centric episode. This is much later in this season. This is in the last handful of episodes, so I'm kind of surprised that there is an episode like this late in the season. But they went this way with it. So Andros saves this little guy named, eventually called Seymour, from the monster Jackarak. I gotta say that Jackarak's voice is pretty hilarious in this. And he says servant about 500 times. The Rangers kidnapped my servant! My servant! No R's in that pronunciation whatsoever. So Jackarak is kind of a funny-sounding villain, and that Seymour was stolen by the Rangers. Well, not really stolen, saved from Jackarak by Andros especially. Andros kind of raises him like his own little Pokemon or something. And overnight, he grows into basically Jar Jar Binks, and he's kind of this big, kind of dumb, annoying character. Not super obnoxious or anything, but just, one of these one-off characters that we see sometime in this series that are just there one time, and they're really goofy and weird. So, the episode is not, like, incredibly terrible. There's a good Megazord fight at the end, but it's just so dumb. It's kind of like E.T. or something, where Andros finds this little alien guy and helps him out, and that's kind of the whole premise and bulk of the episode. So it's just not a lot of fun. I think it's just a little too goofy for this late in the series. You know, we have the cyborg Astronema calling the shots in this one. This is after she's, you know, reverted back to being Astronema and stuff, and we're going, you know, full speed ahead into Countdown to Destruction, and this just didn't fit in with the serious stuff that was going on. Not that everything has to be serious. I mean, Power Rangers obviously is a goofy show inherently, and they did well with some goofy stuff or, you know, less serious stuff, lighthearted stuff in this season particularly, but this was one where I just felt like it was not needed. We were trying to go towards the end of the series here at this point, and this episode did not fit in. So this is why it fit in at number 4. Now let's move on. Number 3, The Wasp with a Heart. So this episode matches up with a big theme this season, which is bad guys turning good or having those kind of shades of gray. So this monster, Waspicable, which is a great name, by the way, is not really the worst bad guy. I mean, he's kind of forced into it. His natural personality is to basically just smell flowers and be light and fluffy and not really a bad monster or anything. But Ecliptor and Astronema's army kind of really force him to be a bad guy, so that's what he's trying to be throughout this episode, but he ends up not being able to shoot the Pink Ranger, and Cassie it feels something for him, like he doesn't want the Rangers to attack him or anything because she thinks that he saved her and all that. So it kind of, you know, toes that line between, you know, being too sappy and, you know, really trying to make this monster a character, but it's just too goofy. I mean, we've seen this costume before too in I think season 1 of Mighty Morphin, so I recognize that right away. I think they modified it a little bit, but that was just one thing that sort of stuck out to me. And it's just, you know, like I said in the previous episode, this season could do some lighthearted and goofy stuff pretty well, but this was just too far goofy, and they tried to mix it with being serious and stuff, and that could work with Astronema, but I mean, when you're trying to do that with a monster bee, it doesn't really work that well, I don't think. So Cassie was a little too invested, I think, and cared a little too much about Waspicable as well. So yeah, this one just didn't work for me. That's why it fit in at number 3. But there are 2 worse episodes, so let's see what those are. Number 2, The Craterite Invasion. So in this episode, the Astro Megaship is struck by lightning in a big storm, and that's while TJ and Ashley are training in their little Simideck thing, and they're fighting the Craterites, which are simulations, but because the ship got struck by lightning, somehow they become real or something, and then like thousands and thousands of them all of a sudden are, you know, brought into reality, and then they jump down to Earth, and they invade Earth and form a giant monster within themselves by just like piling on each other, and they're in disguise a lot too, so that's a big thing in the episode, is that only like certain people can see them, which is weird, and that's not really explained, but that's just the premise of the episode, is that their simulated villains become real and invade Earth. So it's not explained why, but that's what happens. It's not a good episode. I don't like this one. I mean, I don't even think Astronema is in this episode. This is all of the Rangers' own making. You know, why the Earth is under attack. I'm sure they just wanted to use more of that Mega Ranger footage and everything, and this was a way to condense all that stuff with these villains in there. So the attacks are really just random and weird, and then this little kid is in there, and they don't explain why he could see them and other people can't see them. It's also some creepy stuff in here when he goes up to a cop and tries to tell him what's happening. And he just says, "What'd you see next door, Patrick?" And it's really over the top, like creepy talking like this. So that was a little over the top. I mean, even for Power Rangers. So yeah, eventually, you know, they fight this giant version of all these Craterites combined into one being. They destroy it, and that's, you know, the end of the episode. They have to, you know, aim for the leader, which has like a black head. All the other ones are pink. So that's what happens in this episode. It's not really good. They tried to make it, you know, semi-interesting with this invasion and stuff, but, you know, when the main villain's not even in the episode, and the plight that the Power Rangers are under is of their own making, it's hard to be invested in what's happening. And that kid was, I mean, he's a kid actor. I don't want to be too hard on him or anything, but it was just not, he wasn't very good. And I just didn't enjoy this episode pretty much at all. I hope Maybe you guys got something out of it. I don't know. It wasn't really my thing. I will say that the simulation deck or whatever that they fought the Craterites on in the earlier episodes of this season definitely reminded me of like the Danger Room from X-Men. Simulating fights and things like that. I'm not sure if that's where they got the idea or what, but yeah, that's kind of what it reminded me of. And then them coming into the real world. Not a terrible concept, but how it was executed I really didn't like, so that's why it fits in the number 2. But there's one episode that's so much worse of all these combined. I'm about to talk about it right now, so let's get into that. And the number 1 worst episode of Power Rangers in Space, Granma Matchmaker. I hate this episode. This is probably my least favorite episode of any Power Rangers season that I've seen. I cannot stand this. I get angry watching this episode. So the premise of this is Ashley's goofy grandma is in town, and she's trying to set Ashley up to get married. Ashley is still in high school at this point, and she's like 17 or 18, and the grandma's trying to set her up to get married, and she brings like a whole portfolio of all these dudes that they're flipping through. And then, Ashley gets so fed up with everything that she just tells her that she's together with Carlos out of nowhere, and then they have to pretend to be together for a little while, but then they confess to the grandma that they're not really together, and then she makes them go out on a date together, and like she's spying on them on like the merry-go-round, and then making them drink drinks, together, like a milkshake with 2 straws, that kind of thing. So it's just like, holy moly, man. I don't think they could have possibly made this character of the grandma more totally obnoxious than she was. I could not stand seeing this lady on screen. Her voice, her little weird squeaks, her facial expressions, her terrible wardrobe, how she constantly gets involved in stuff. I know that the character is supposed to be this annoying, overbearing grandma, but good God, man, they overstepped it here. They made her so annoying that it just got, like, it blew my mind how bad this was. And I just, every time she was on screen, I wanted to, like, bash my head in with a freaking mallet. I could not stand it. I would audibly just yell at the TV when I watched this episode. And I just could not stand it. I hated it. I hated it so much. And especially because it's a part of such a great season of the show, it sort of just, like, brings everything back down. And it just made me so angry. Everything else I could give a pass to. Everything else isn't really that bad. Power Rangers in Space is one of, if not the best season of the series that I've seen. So everything else I could pretty much give a pass to. But this, I could not stand this, man. I was so, like, just getting fed up and angry watching it. It doesn't happen a lot where I get mad watching stuff. I'm a pretty easygoing guy with watching stuff. I can explain why I don't like something without being too angry, but this one really ticked me off. No offense to anyone involved in this episode, but I just couldn't stand it. I don't know if you feel the same way, but this just pushed all the wrong buttons in me, and I just, if I never see this episode again, I will be so happy. I hope to just forget about it after mentioning this, and then I will never think about it again. So, that's all of them. That's all the top 5 worst episodes of Power Rangers in Space. Like I said, most of them not bad. This season was really great. I want to hear what you guys think. What are your personal worst episodes of Power Rangers in Space? What are your best episodes of Power Rangers in Space? Like I said before, make sure you go ahead and check out the 100th episode of Top 5 over on Channel Awesome, so you can see the conclusion to the Dino Rob plot that we had going, and see what I loved about this season, which there's a lot that I loved about Power Rangers in Space, so I hope you check that out. I will be back here next week talking about just the first 100 episodes of Top 5, and I'll break down kind of, my 2-year journey sort of going with Channel Awesome and the Top 5 show, and just sort of giving you guys my thoughts on 2 years and 100 episodes of the show. So I'll be back with that next week. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you go ahead and check out that Top 5 Best Power Rangers in Space episodes over on the Channel Awesome YouTube channel now. And check back next week for a new Top 5 over there. Thank you guys for watching very much. I will be back here very soon with more videos and hopefully some more Power Ranger videos. So stay tuned for that, and I will catch you next time.